Hi guys, thank you so much for joining me for your practice today. We're going to be working with the element air today. So this is going to be a class focused primarily on balancing postures. We're going to be working on finding lightness in postures and that lift. If you're familiar with Uddiyana Bandha, we're going to be using that to make sure we stay nice and lifted through our pelvis, our center of gravity, and hopefully learn to float through postures with a little bit more ease. If you are naturally an air type person, you may find this class a little bit of a challenge in the fact that you have got naturally diverted attention, which means it takes not much for you to click between attention spans. And this isn't a problem so much in everyday life, it can help you get a lot done. But when you're working with yoga, you want to be able to find a steady gaze point, you want to be able to slow your breathing down and remain present. Okay, so be aware of that if you're naturally an air type person. If you're naturally more earth type, you may find that you feel good establishing your foundations, but perhaps find a little bit more trouble finding balance. So in the more advanced postures, I'm going to be offering up some arm balances and some inversions. These are problem poses for me. I'm naturally an earth water type person, so these can be challenging for me. Then you may find that you want to bring more of your body towards the earth. So it's just a natural tendency to do that. So be mindful of that. If you wanted to bring any props into the class, maybe a couple of blocks will be useful. I highly recommend you practice somewhere with a wall or a support, or if not, someone that's happy to catch you if you're going to fall, if you wanted that sort of support in this class. I hope you enjoy the class. Thank you so much for joining me. Namaste. Okay, so we're going to start in just a comfortable seated position, whatever that looks like for you. You can sit cross legs, extend your legs out in front, sit on a cushion, sit on your shins. We're going to start by connecting to Vayu Mudra, which is the element of air mudra. So what you're going to do is you're going to connect the tip of your thumb to the root of your index finger. The remaining 3 fingers on each hand can stay extended out long. If that doesn't feel comfortable, feel free to just rest your hands on your knees or in your lap. That will be fine too. And just begin to connect to your breath, breathing in and out through the nose, creating small restriction to the back of the throat as you exhale. Begin to ground down through each point of connection your body has with the earth beneath you. And from that grounded sensation, your strong foundations begin to create space in your body. Feel your shoulders draw away from your ears, feel the crown of your head lengthen. Feel the lightness. Feel tall through the spine. Allow the mind to clear. Any ripples in the mind, what we call chittavritti, the circulating habitual thoughts of everyday life, let them go. And allow yourself time and space to fill up with this fresh new energy. Feel expansive in the chest and the ribs, the lungs. Feel all this beautiful new air filling within us, bringing us all this beautiful new energy, prana. Take one deep breath in through the nose. Exhale, let it go through the mouth. Bring the palms together at the heart center. Softly blink the eyes open. Namaste. Okay, beginning with our spinal warm-up. We're going to bring our right hand to the outside of the right hip as we inhale. We extend up through the left fingertips as we exhale. We side bend over to the right, maybe coming down onto the elbow, but focusing more on creating space within our body, opening up through the chest. Maybe looking up towards the ceiling, reaching up through the fingertips. Feel light within the top half of the body after we've grounded down through our sit bones. Exhale here. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, left hand down. Inhale to extend through those right fingertips. Exhale, side bend over to the left. Steady your breathing. Tune into how you're feeling here within your hips, your shoulders, Maybe into your neck as well. How does it feel to look up towards that top hand? Inhale, come through center, reach up. Exhale, right hand to the outside of the right hip, left hand towards the right knee. As we inhale, we create that space, we lift. As we exhale, we twist, maybe beginning to peek out over the right shoulder. Steady your breathing. Feel the air traveling in through your lungs, expanding your ribs, stretching out those muscles in between the ribs, the intercostal muscles, as we maybe twist a little bit deeper, tuning into how you're feeling in the thoracic spine, the middle of the spine where the twist should be coming from. Inhale through center, reach up. Exhale, left hand to the outside of the left hip, right hand towards the left knee. Inhale to create that space, to lift, and exhale to twist. So hopefully you're feeling it not in the hips as such, not in the lower belly. The belly button should be as much as possible facing forwards, but you're feeling the twist come from the thoracic spine, sort of behind the rib cage, through the chest, maybe even through the neck and the head. As long as it feels comfortable, we're not forcing anything here, we're just tuning into how the mobility in the spine is feeling today. Inhale, come through center, reach up. Exhale, release the hands down, coming into our tabletop position on our hands and knees. Wrists underneath your shoulders, knees underneath your hips, feet flat out behind you. As we inhale, we move into cow pose. The crown of the head comes up, chest forward, belly down, tailbone reaches up. As we exhale, we start mobility at the tailbone, we round the spine, lift and separate the shoulder blades as the crown of the head releases down. Take 2 more of each at your own pace. If you are a particularly air type person already, this may be the part where you find lots of, cracking in the joints where the excess air is moving out. You're creating that space. And on your next breath in, come back to a neutral spine. We'll come into our first downward facing dog, so bring the palms of the hands forward. Separate the fingers nice and wide, tuck the toes under. Lift the sit bones up and back towards the ceiling and begin to pedal the feet. Lift the sit bones up high, ground down through the index finger and thumb side of the hands. Create lots of space around the neck by dropping the shoulders down away from the ears and out to the side. There should be no tension in the neck and the head. So if you are an air type person, you can have a lot of cooling and dry energy. So this isn't a problem in everyday life as such, but if you're not careful in your yoga practice, it can mean that you start your practice quite cool and quite dry, which means that you have limited mobility in your connective tissues, so your muscles, your tendons, the fascia that surrounds those. And what can happen if you're not careful and you don't do a proper warm-up and make sure that you've brought some heat into the body, you can end up tearing these delicate tissues because they're not warm and moist enough. So just take a little bit of extra attention here, maybe drop the heels down, bring some movement in. Just check in with how you're feeling. If you're feeling a little cold and a little dry, make sure you bring in the extra love. And then on your next breath in, look forward. In as many steps as you need, we're going to walk forward to our ragdoll. Feet hips distance apart or wider, knees bent. Opposite hand to opposite elbow as we bring some soft movements into the spine. Tune in with how you're feeling in the neck and the head. And then when you're ready, release the hold of the elbows, staying rooted through the feet, rooted through the toes, bent through the knees. Begin to roll up the spine, stacking one vertebrae at a time over your hips until your chin comes parallel with the floor. So we're going to start in our Samastitihi. We're going to take a little bit of extra time here just to establish our foundations. So as I said, obviously with the air element, we are working with lightness, creating that lift in our bodies, but in yoga we have to have some point of connection with the earth in order to have that lift. So make sure that you do pay attention to your foundations. Make sure you use the element earth to make sure you're nice and stable and grounded down. So we're going to be using Uddiyana today, which is upward flying. For any of you that are familiar with Uddiyana Bandha, that means your belly button drawing back and up towards your ribs to about 40% of your capacity. It's also a thing that we can use in our feet. So what we do is we ground down through the toes. We ground down through the ball of the foot underneath the big toe and under the little toe. And then we ground down through the heel as well. So what can be good is lifting all the toes up, ground down the little toe, ground down the big toe if you can, and keep the other three lifted, and then release down. And what you hopefully should feel is your arches begin to lift. So this is what we call Uddiyana, the upward flying. This is going to help you stay light within the feet, but also strong within your foundations. Okay, so as I said, Uddiyana Bandha, if you're familiar with it, Mula Bandha as well, your root lock, pelvic floor lifted to about 60% of your capacity. This is going to help us with lightness in the pelvis. So the pelvis is our center of gravity, and it is a key area for making sure we have balance in our postures. So if you find that sometimes you're a little bit clumsy, a little bit wonky when you're walking and things like this, it can be a lack of awareness to your center of gravity, which can shift as well if you're overweight or pregnant. You know, you can get things that shift your center of balance, but primarily we're focusing on the pelvis. So make sure you use that as your key for awareness today. Okay, knees drawn up, quadriceps engaged, tailbone draws down, again, focusing on the pelvis, drawing it into a posterior, very slight posterior tilt. Shoulders up and away from the ears, palms face forward, chin parallel. Okay, so this is our Samastitihi, our standing posture. If at any point you need to re-establish your foundations, you're feeling a little unbalanced, we are working a lot with balance today, just take a few breaths in Samastiti, re-establish your roots and ground down. So as I said, for all of you air type, we're going to make sure we have a little bit of a warm up. So 3 rounds of Surya Namaskara A, and then we'll get straight into our balancing postures. As we inhale, bring the arms up overhead, shoulders away from the ears, palms face each other, look forward, draw the tailbone down and the low ribs in. As we exhale, micro bend in the knees, hinge forward from the hips, bring the hands down to thighs, shins, or towards the floor. As we inhale, begin to extend the spine, look forward, straighten the legs. If they are straight, bring the hips over the heels, lengthen the spine, shoulders away from the ears. Exhale, bend the knees as much as you need to plant the hands. Step back to plank, lower all the way down onto the belly, knees can be lifted or lowered. Tops of the feet flat, elbows into ribs. As we inhale, we lift the chest, look forward. Exhale, forehead releases down. Coming through a tabletop, tuck the toes under, downward facing dog. So maintaining a steady drishti is going to be so important in this practice. So for downward facing dog, it's either the toes, knees, or nabhi chakra, your belly button. But for this practice, drishti is going to be so crucial to finding balance. We're going to be taking quite a few of them. So making sure that you have calmed your mind. If you're an air type, you have circulating thoughts, you have constant movement of the eyes, you're constantly looking around for something to latch onto. So try to make sure you steady the breath, steady the mind, and don't let your focus shift. This is going to be so helpful to you as you're working with air type postures. And then as we inhale, we look forward to the space between the hands and as many steps as you need. Come to that halfway lift again, shoulders away from the ears. Exhale, gentle bend to the knees as the crown of the head releases down. Inhale, come all the way up. Straight spine if you can this time, arms up overhead, look forward. Exhale, back to our Samastitihi, re-establishing our roots. Okay, second round, some up-level options this time. Inhale, arms up overhead. This time maybe palms together, look to the thumbs, make sure the elbows stay towards straight and the shoulders drop away from the ears. Exhale, hinge forward from the hips, maybe the legs remain straight this time as the crown of the head releases down. Inhale, lengthen the spine, look forward. Exhale, step, or if it's in your practice, you can try floating backwards into Chaturanga. This is a good place to re-establish your center of gravity by activating your bandhas, keeping the hips high. And then as we inhale, we either roll over the feet or flip the feet upward facing dog, arms towards straight, knees lifted, quadriceps engaged, looking forward or slightly up. Exhale.
Roll over the toes or flip the feet. Downward facing dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana, steadying your breath. Find balance, find calm. Feel light in the pelvis. Draw the belly button back towards the spine for Uddiyana Bandha and up towards the ribs to help protect the spine. You should feel hollow in your lower belly and your pelvis. This helps us lift the hips that little bit higher, bringing more awareness to our center of gravity. As we inhale, look forward, step, or if you're working with your floating or jumping, bend your knees, come up onto the toes, look forward, hips high, land lightly, coming into the halfway lift. As we exhale, crown of the head releases down. Inhale, come all the way up. Exhale, Samastitihi, last round. Inhale. Exhale. Remember to follow your own breath if it doesn't match mine. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Just reconnecting to your foundations a little bit here. Inhale, look forward, step or float. Exhale. Inhale, come all the way up. Exhale, release Samastitihi, find the arches of the feet, find that upward energy, that upward lift. Prasarita Padottanasana. So as we inhale, step the right foot out wide, about 5 feet or so, arms out to shoulder height, toes in slightly, so the flat edges of the feet are parallel with the flat edges of the mat. As we exhale, we bring the hands to the waist, we lengthen the spine. Inhale, lift the chest, look up. As we exhale, we hinge forward from the hips. Bring the hands down towards the floor in line with the feet. Hands shoulder distance apart, make sure that the elbows are in line with the shoulders as well, they're not falling out to the side. As we inhale, we lengthen the spine, lift the chest, look forward. And as we exhale, we fold, the crown of the head releases down. So maybe the crown of the head reaches the floor here. If it does, you're at a bit of an advantage because you have an extra point of connection with the earth that helps you establish a foundation. But if not, we're just working in that direction. Make sure you stay strong through the hands. So we're just here, because obviously this is starting to work with our balance a little bit as well, but we're also beginning to tune into the center of gravity, our pelvis. So just notice here, try to visualize where you are within your space. So are your hips sinking back behind you? Is the weight in the heels? You can even look at your feet here. If you can see that the heels are slightly paler than the fronts of the feet, that could be an indication that you're pressing too much weight into the backs of the legs. So just gently bring the weight forward until you see an even distribution within the feet. Make sure you've got that lift in your arches, so grounding down through all the toes and the balls of the feet. You may even begin to see it in your feet as the arches lift up. You should be able to feel an activation on the outsides of the legs and the backs of the legs. Sorry, the fronts of the legs, the quadriceps, as we stretch the backs of the legs and stretch the inner thighs. Okay, tilt the weight forward. Maybe if you are close, maybe the crown of the head begins to reach down or towards a block. You should be working towards a point where you feel so light in the backs of the legs that you could even maybe begin to tip forward, but you obviously don't want to move to that point where you fall forward. So make sure your hands are a nice strong foundation as well. Inhale, head up, look forward. Exhale. Inhale, bring the hands to the waist, come all the way back up to standing. And then as we exhale, come back to Samastitihi in as many steps as you need, re-establishing your roots, your feet. Okay, so we're going to move into some balancing postures on one leg. So if you would rather find a wall for this, then that's going to be a really useful tool to help build these postures into your muscle memory, and then one day you can come away from the wall and you won't have to kind of relearn the whole posture again. So we're going to start with a variation on either Virabhadrasana 3, Warrior 3, or our Ardha Chandrasana, half moon, working into Shavasana, sugarcane pose. So feel free to watch me if you wanted to and then come into it at your own pace. You can always pause the video and then work into it at your own pace. So we're going to start by coming into just a Samastitihi position. Make sure you're kind of in the middle of your mat so you have space on either side. And then as we exhale, we're going to begin to fold forward. I forgot to bring one, but if you have a block, that's going to be really useful for placing your hand on if you can't reach the floor. Otherwise, we're going to have to reach towards the floor. You can be up on the fingertips, that's fine too. So for the first variation, Warrior 3, Virabhadrasana C, you're going to begin to extend your right leg back behind you. You can stay up on the tippy toes, or you can extend your leg more towards parallel. Looking forward, trying to bring the torso towards straight, looking directly towards the mat in front of you. If you feel balanced here, you can bring one hand to your heart center, maybe two. Staying strong through the standing leg, trying not to lock the knee or hyperextend, keeping a gentle bend. Or you can bring your arms alongside the body, palms face down. Or you can bring your arms alongside the ears, palms face each other. Okay, so maybe that's where you are today, working with that. Or we have the option to come into Ardha Chandrasana, half moon. Some people find this an easier balance, some people find it far more challenging because there's less points of contact as you start out, but just work with whatever feels best for you. So we're going to again fold forward. This time we're going to bring the right hand to the outside of the right foot and just in front of it. If you wanted to stay on the fingertips again, you can do that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to lift the left leg back and open it out to the side. So lift the left hand up towards the ceiling, reaching the left foot back and opening into an external rotation of the hip joint. So the hips should be stacked on top of each other. The toes should be facing the left-hand side of the mat as we reach the left arm up towards the ceiling. Maybe you can even look up towards the left hand. If you wanted to take it even further, Chapasana, take the outside of the left foot with the left hand and begin to kick the foot into the hand. Okay. Should feel like a nice opening along the front of the leg, the quadricep, as we open up, as we flex the knee. And then wherever we are, we're going to release gently back into a forward fold. And just take a couple of breaths here. And then we're going to come into the other side. So again, if you know which one you wanted to come into, you can come straight into it, or I'll cue you through them all again. Bring the right foot back behind you, come onto the tippy toes, begin to lift up towards parallel maybe. Stay with the fingertips on the floor or bring them together at the heart center, palms together. Bring the arms behind you alongside the body, palms face down, or in front of you, palms face each other. For Chapasana or Ardha Chandrasana, sugarcane or half moon, bring the left hand towards the outside of the left foot. Bring the right foot back behind you and open the hips out to the right. Right hand reaches up towards the ceiling. The right toes should be facing the right hand side. Option to move it further by taking the outer edge of the right foot with the right hand and kicking the top of the right foot into the hand. Steady your breath. And if you come out, don't worry about it. You can come to rest or just come back in. And then exhale wherever we are. Gently as you can, release into a forward fold. This time maybe take more of a ragdoll. So feet hips distance apart, gentle bend to the knees. And tune into how you're feeling. The key to these balancing postures is maintaining a steady breath and a steady gaze so you don't feel that stress. Often what happens is we hold our breath and we end up feeling stressed, and that's the opposite intention of what we want. We want to calm the mind by finding a steady focus and breathing gently. If you hold the breath, you're going to tune into the sympathetic nervous system, the fight or flight response, which we don't really want to be doing in yoga, if you can help it. Release the elbows, staying bent through the knees. Begin to roll up the spine. Finding our Samastitihi once more. Uttita Hasta Padangushtasana, extended hand to big toe pose. So we're going to take two variations of this posture. This is going to be really useful for helping strengthen our core muscles and our hip flexors. So the iliopsoas muscles and the quadriceps are going to be strengthened here. These are going to be so crucial for maintaining balance in our arm balances, and as we move forward, our floating and our some of our inversion practices. These are going to be really useful tools for eventually, ultimately, getting into some of these postures. Okay, so start by grounding through the left foot, nice strong foundations. Left hand to the left hip. As we inhale, you can either just take a hold of the right toes or the right shin, or if you're feeling it, bring the right arm out in front, bring the right foot up, and catch the big toes. So as I said, your knee can be bent, that's fine, or just take a hold of the shin, that's fine too. And then as we exhale, we're going to open it out to the side. So looking Parijvadrishti over to the right. If you wanted to bring your, over to the left. If you wanted to bring your left hand to a wall, that's fine too. If you're just here with your knee bent, you can just gently press open from the thigh. Hopefully we're feeling it in the glutes, the lateral rotators, probably feeling it in the inner thigh as well of that right leg. And then as we inhale, we bring the leg back to center. This is where it gets quite tricky. Not that it wasn't already tricky, but as we exhale, we let go of the right foot, but keep the right foot lifted. Okay, hands to the waist, looking towards the right big toe. You're going to instantly feel that muscle beginning to work in order to keep your leg not only extended out in front of you, but, not only flexed out in front of you, but the knee extended. Exhale to release. Hopefully you're feeling that in the hip flexors. Round your center of gravity. Next side, ground through the right hand side as we inhale. Catch a hold of the left toes. As we exhale, we open out to the side. So same variations here. If the knee is bent, just work with gently pressing open from the inner thigh, looking towards the right. Find one spot that doesn't move. Steady your breath. And then as we inhale, bring the leg back to center. And as we exhale, we release the hold of the foot, but keep the leg lifted. It can be bent, looking towards the left big toe. Standing leg is strong, but not locked. Okay, so a gentle bend in the knee. Working with balance today. And exhale to release. And shake it out. Fantastic. We're going to move through to our seated sequence through a vinyasa. So coming to the front of the mat, as we inhale, we extend our arms up. Exhale. Hinge forward. Inhale, head up. Exhale, Chaturanga. Inhale, upward facing. Exhale, downward facing. And then from here, we've got an option for Bakasana or Malasana, garland pose, or crow pose. So as you look forward, we're going to bring our feet to the outsides of the hands. So you can either step the feet one at a time or practice your jumping. Land lightly as you can. Toes out to about 45 degrees, about mat's distance apart. Begin to sit the hips down. If the heels comfortably reach the floor, then you can bring the palms together at the heart center, thumbs towards sternum, sternum towards thumbs, lengthen the spine, lift the chest, look up. If the heels are kind of lifted, you can keep the hands on the floor, place blocks underneath your heels, or roll up the mat to support the heels beneath you. Okay, steadying your breath here, focus on staying nice and long through the spine, nice and lifted. And then we have the option to move into Bakasana, crow pose. So this is an arm balance. If you have any wrist issues, please make sure you just stay here. This is already beginning to stretch out the wrists and strengthen the wrists, so this will be enough for you. If you wanted to give it a go, you're going to bring the torso parallel with the floor, palms about shoulder distance apart, fingers spread nice and wide. Now what's going to be really useful key here is that you want the mobility in the fingers, so you don't want them spread super wide and flat, because otherwise if you fall, you're not going to be able to counter that. So you want that little bit of mobility so you can kind of ground down through the finger pads. Bring the feet in together. Bring the tops of the knees to the backs of the arms and then begin to tip your weight forward. Maybe bring one leg up, maybe two. Steadying your breath. And you don't have to hold it for a super long time. Just work with where you are today. If you come out, you can come back in. Bringing the heels towards the sit bones, steady your breath, find a gaze point. And then when you're ready to come out, release down. Hopefully you're feeling the lightness in the pelvis as we lift the hips up. Release the wrists. If you wanted to pause it and go over that again, you can. And then we're going to come into Ekapada Kudiniyasana, which is a really fun arm balance, but it can be quite intense. So it's sometimes called Sage Kudini's pose, or sometimes called floating splits, I think sometimes it's called. So we're going to come into, well, I'm going to come into a downward facing dog. You can come into it however you'd like to. You're going to look forward, and then you're going to bring your right foot to the outside of the right hand, okay? And then from here, we're going to bring our right shoulder underneath the back of the right leg and bring the right hand to the outside. Okay, so kind of like you're putting on a backpack. This may feel like enough for you, especially if you're feeling it in the hips. Just work with this today. And then if you wanted to take it a little bit further, you can begin to scoot your right foot forward, come into kind of Chaturanga arms, kick that foot forward, lengthen. Exhale, maybe Chaturanga, maybe like that. Not my strongest posture, but working with it. Okay, so if you wanted to pause the video and come back to that again, we'll do it on the other side. Okay, so take a couple of breaths here. It's quite strength building as well. You should be feeling it in your core and your pelvis, your center of gravity. Hopefully all those muscles around your hip flexors are kind of working a little bit as well. Okay, so next side. Just checking with how the wrists are feeling as well. Don't force anything. Bring the left foot to the outside of the left hand. Okay. Bring the left arm underneath, so the back of the left leg kind of sits on like a backpack. Bring the arms in so they're about shoulder distance apart. Bring the left foot forward, scooch it forward, and then tip forward into Chaturanga arms. Left foot stays nice and lengthened. And then release. You can release through Chaturanga or just kind of come down to wherever feels most comfortable. Downward facing dog. And then drop to the shins, come into a child's pose. Keep the arms lengthened out in front or alongside the body. Re-establish your connection to your breath. Feel this beautiful energy traveling around your body as we bring in the lovely element of air, movement with balance, finding lightness in our bodies. And that lightness may not come straight away. The first time we attempt these really advanced postures, it can feel like nothing but light. You just feel like you want to flop on the floor. But slowly, over time, as we build strength in these muscles, it does become a real real nice place to come and enjoy it. So balancing postures can be a bit of a Marmite situation. You know, you can hate them to start with, but if you keep going, hopefully you find some that you can find peace and stability in. And then begin to gently walk your hands back. Coming back up, we're going to come into Upavista Konasana with a leg lift. So we're going to bring our legs comfortably wide. Okay, so we're not going for like a middle split or anything like that. We're just going to bring our legs comfortably wide. And then we're going to begin to fold forward. So you can bring your your arms in front of you. You may feel more comfortable pressing from behind you, and you're not even have to moving that much. You're just pressing the fingertips in and gently pressing the chest forward. Or you can take a hold of the outsides of the feet. Try to make sure though, especially if you're taking the outsides of the feet, that the knees don't roll in or out. They stay facing up towards the ceiling. Okay, and steadying your breath. Maybe ultimately your chin or your chest reaches the floor. Shoulders away from the ears. Feeling it along the backs of the legs, but using the hip flexors to draw the pelvis down. So moving the pelvis into an anterior tilt as much as you can, drawing the fronts of the pelvis down towards the floor. Inhale, come up. All the way up, lift at the top maybe, if it feels nice, and release. And then we're going to take Upavista Konasana C. So, I'm not sure how to do this with you guys there. Your legs are in a wide position, and then you're going to take a hold of the feet. I find it's easiest to connect the fingers around the big toes, but if you would rather take a different variation, you can do that. And then extend the legs towards straight. So keeping them at that wide angle like we did before. Try to keep the chest lifted, keep the core engaged, so you maybe start shaking a little bit here, grounding down through the sit bones to help strengthen the hip flexors. Feel the lightness, hopefully, in the legs. Find that point where you feel balanced between the tipping points. And then gently release into a seat. We have options for inversions today because it wouldn't be a balancing class without an inversion or two. So we've got a choice here for Chandrasana, headstand, or headstand prep. Or if you're more familiar with it and you feel more comfortable with it and you have no neck issues, then you can take Sarvangasana, okay? And if you needed to see how that's done, you can come and watch one of my other videos. If you have got any neck issues, high blood pressure, glaucoma, ladies on their menstrual cycle, please just come to legs up the wall pose by coming down onto your back, bringing your legs up either to an actual wall, or you can leave them just up towards the ceiling, maybe supporting the backs of the legs. Okay, so you're still going to get a lovely inversion benefits, but without putting your neck, your head at risk. Okay, if you're working towards Chandrasana headstand and you're not familiar with it, I recommend that you come to a wall. Really try to avoid kicking up to the wall because that is going to only give you limited range of muscle memory. So when you come away from the wall, all that's going to happen is you're going to kick up and go over, and that's dangerous. So we really want to move up with intention. If you're really struggling to get up, it may be an indication that that core work and the strength within the hip flexors that we've been talking about so much isn't quite there yet. So just work with where you are today. As I said, make sure you're safe. Try to avoid kicking up. If you want someone to come and spot you, then come and grab someone to make sure that you don't go over if you're feeling a little anxious about that. Okay, so to start up our foundations, we're going to take our elbows to the floor. We're going to grab the hands around the tops of the arms, just like around the triceps, to make sure we're at a good distance. And then from there, you're going to interlace the fingers. There's a couple of different methods that people use here. The method that I use, that I find the most stable, is to bring the palms of the hands together, interlace the fingers, and then tuck the little finger inside the palms of the hands. Okay, so this, and then what I would do is I would bring my head, the back of my head, towards the wrists. Okay, that feels a little bit more stable for me. What other people do, and you can try it if you feel more balanced here, is open the hands, and then what would happen is they would place the open hands along the back of the head. So if that's feeling it more for you, then you can do that. But one thing I've noticed is that when I do this, often my elbows tend to splay out, which we really don't want. We want the elbows to be staying at that distance apart. So if you do this and this happens, try maybe with the foundation of bringing the palms together, because that avoids the elbows flaying out too far. Okay, and then we're going to start with our prep. So we're going to start with kind of like a dolphin prep, tucking the toes under, lifting the sit bones up and back towards the ceiling. And you can look to the point just below you, in between the elbows. This may feel like enough here. Try to avoid dumping into the shoulders, but instead lift out of the shoulders. And then if you wanted to try headstand, just drop to the knees for a second. Move your hair out the way. If you've got hair clips in, you may need to move them around. And you're going to bring the back of the head towards either the wrists or, as I said, the palms of the hands. Ground down through the elbows. And then you're going to lift your sit bones up. Begin to walk your feet in. Okay, so try to avoid putting too much weight on the head. Ground down through the backs of the arms, the forearms. Draw the shoulders away from the ears and lift them up. Okay, maybe walking in a little bit further. Maybe bringing one foot up. Maybe two. Maybe kind of coming into like a hovering position with your knees bent. Maybe beginning to extend them towards straight. Keep the toes pointed if you can and the legs are straight. Keep the legs active. Keep light through the crown of the head by grounding down through the elbows. Keep the shoulders away from the ears. Keep the belly drawn in and the tailbone draws back towards the backs of the legs. Steady your breath. Steady your gaze. And when you're ready to come out, very gently, either go out the same way you came in, or you can just release your feet down. Rest in child's pose. Make sure you don't come into any sudden movements, whichever variation you are in. Release the head down, releasing along the back of the neck. If you're here and you find that you've got strain in the back of your neck, that may be an indication that you've put too much weight on the head. So work with really pressing down through the forearms and drawing the shoulders away from the ears. And then very gently, when you're ready, begin to roll up the spine. Slowly, slowly as you need to, make sure to avoid getting any head rush here. Come to lay down on your back. Bring the knees in towards the chest, bring the feet about hips distance apart, arms up to either a capital T or a goalpost position, just gently lower the knees over to the right. If you have another twist you would prefer to take, feel free to do that. But we're just trying to wind down, slow the breath. Allow all the wonderful work we've done to sink in. And as we inhale, bring the knees back to center. Exhale, lower them over to the left. Finding a comfortable position for your neck, either up towards the ceiling or over towards the right. As we inhale, bring the knees back to center. Bring the soles of the feet together, allow the knees to fall open to the side. Bring your left hand to your heart, your right hand to your belly. Allowing all the wonderful work you've done to sink in. All the benefits of bringing this element of air into your practice. Finding balance, finding lightness, finding energy in troubled situations or difficult or strenuous situations, helping you with motivation. And when you're ready, bring your knees back to center. Release your legs long. Release your arms alongside the body, palms face up. Close your eyes, release your bandhas, release your Ujjayi Pranayama. Take a special extra bit of love here to draw the shoulders down away from the ears. Bring the elbows in towards the ribs as the palms of the hands release, facing up. Notice how you're feeling in the shoulders, the neck. Release the feet wide. Notice how you're feeling in the legs, the hips. And breathe deep now into your belly, creating or bringing energy into that space where we've created the hollowness for so long. And be grateful to yourself for showing up for your practice. Regardless of whether or not you got into any of the postures, let go of any judgments, any expectations, and allow yourself to just be. And I recommend you stay in your Shavasana for at least another 3 to 5 minutes if you have time. Thank you so much for practicing with me today. As you go forward, I wish you peace in your thoughts, peace in your words. Peace in your heart. Namaste.